Hey everyone, Luke here. Now before I get into the video, I just want to make a quick announcement. I've been writing a play, I've been reworking a play to actually put forward for the drama group for October, so it's going to be like a Halloween sort of themed show, and I'm really looking forward to that. I've been working extremely hard on that all week, going through the script, getting a few pointers from people here and there about what can actually be changed, and the story has completely changed. I just finished it last night, and now I'm going through cutting out stuff that doesn't really need to be there to try and trim it down so that it's as perfect as it can possibly, or the best it can actually be, because no story is actually perfect. I mean, the Promised Neverland has its faults as well, too many side characters that don't get enough attention. When they do get attention, it's really good. With Anna recently, in some of the recent chapters, got some focus herself as well, and finding out what she's learned over the time skip. But again, there's so many that it's kind of hard to keep track of sometimes, and that's one thing I'll agree with Control Chaos on, is that some of the characters that don't need to be there. There's really a lot of the characters don't really need to be there, whereas in Dr. Stone they've sort of trimmed down to okay, what's the most important characters that could be brought on this journey. I really hope Tsukaya is actually brought along with that trip, because she's my favourite character. I really hope that it's a One Piece situation where Carrot just sort of snuck aboard the Thousand. So I really hope Tsukaya gets snuck aboard this ship, and she's there for the long run. If that's the case, guys, then Dr. Stone will be replacing The Promised Neverland as my favourite manga, because there's just that one little aspect that just needs to top it off. I mean, they're both standing at equals at the moment, but if we can actually get Sakaya on the trip, that'll top The Promised Neverland for me, because I feel in terms of just a broader scope of terms of characters, Dr. Stone outshines The Promised Neverland, just because they know what characters that need to be focused on and what characters that don't need to be focused on. And even the characters that are not getting as much focus, I feel separating the story into an A story and a B story is really great, and we'll really get characters that we'll be focusing on. But anyway, enough talk about Dr. Stone. It's time to get into the chapter of The Promised Neverland, because after this I've got work, so we've got to get right into it. Alright, so this is The Promised Neverland chapter 130, titled Something to Report, and we start off with a cover page showing Emma with a bottle and a flower in that area where you have to actually go to the seven walls. If you remember back at the beginning of the arc, where they actually found that area where they can actually bypass into the seven walls, and in that demon that demon city or demon town or whatever it was, and you had to go through some sort of ritual or something. I think this is kind of another area, a portal that you can actually get through to the seven walls to actually discuss things with the demon god. So the chapter starts off with Emma saying to everyone that she's going to go on her own to find the seven walls, and everybody is freaking out by saying, "What? What do you mean? What do you mean?" But no one said he could. But no one said he could kill off all the demons, and that's where Emma reveals what she's actually been hiding from them all this time, and that she doesn't want to eradicate all the demons, which of course gets everybody with weird looks about what Emma is actually trying to say here. She doesn't want to eradicate demons, but before she was saying that she was fine with it. And again, this shows what kind of character Emma is is that she cares about the others around her, but at the same time she needs to kind of learn herself that she has to believe in what she actually believes rather than being influenced by the others, because it seemed like I've been saying in previous reviews, it seems that Emma has just kind of gone with the flow, and that's not Emma's style. It's she, even though she cares a lot about her family, she kind of wants to speak for herself and speak what's on her mind, rather than keeping it boiled in, which is what she's been doing over the past few chapters, and it's driven her insane, and even more insane by the fact of how Barbara, Vincent, Cecilo and Sassy have all been acting around just what the demons are, what the demons mean to them, and how that conflicts with what Emma's ideology is. And it's quite interesting, the reaction that she's getting, because it's kind of understandable from her from her front. All of a sudden she's been no, I don't want to eradicate all the demons, and they're what have you been saying, Emma? What's changed your mind about all of this? Emma goes on to explain her conviction by saying eradication and annihilation is certainly the most correct way. It's the most certain and correct way, but when you actually think about it, it'd be different if they were only bad demons. And this is kind of like interesting how there's like this simple grey area that the kids are not understanding, but Emma clearly sees that after watching this experience with Songjun Musica, and to an extent Lewis, because Lewis wasn't necessarily a bad demon in the sense, like if you looked at someone like Luke or some of the other demons that would, or some of the other demons, or even Andrew, Lewis was someone who he was still a demon at heart, but at the same time he kind of respected you as an opponent. He's sort of like, I would say he's sort of like on that ground of, say, like Smoker from One Piece, where Smoker is the antagonist, like the villain to Luffy, but at the same time he kind of has a mutual respect for him. It was the same thing with Emma and Lewis. Even at the point at the end of the fight with Lewis, when Emma was sort of like on the verge of being defeated, or sort of the verge of dying after being stabbed by Lewis, he actually respected her as an opponent, and he actually gave his utmost congratulations for how much of a fight she actually put up and how much he satisfied her. And again, it's the same thing, and again, that shows the difference between the demons that are bad and the demons that are by nature still demons, but at least can actually view their opponents as opponents and not talk down to them as if they're something beneath them. And that's the clear difference from the more grey area that Emma is actually bringing up here. Like, it would be different if they were bad demons, but there are demons out there that just want to live a normal life and have a normal family. And we get a flashback of that family that we actually saw, that brother and sister who are just wanting to live their normal life, and they see humans as their food, but at the same time they're not going out and like terrorizing humans all the time. They're just trying to live their life, just trying to get by, just trying to survive in the same way that the humans are trying to survive in this world. And Emma goes on to bring up the point that if we were to take away their supply and make them degenerate to become wild demons and eradicate them, it would kind of like bring fear into them, and we get like these horrific images of just like demons just slaughtering other demons, not caring who they are or what they are. Like, if they're babies, and it's just like, well, we've got to kill them because all our food supply, all the humans are dead. We've got to eat these demons in order to survive without degenerating into these wild creatures. And then we get this really horrific colour spread of, we see just how much fear is actually being brought in, and how much hatred are they going to create as humans, because they wanna just get rid. They wanna be in a world where they don't have to be hunted as well, but at the same time they're creating the hate that the demons have actually created for them. Like, they hate the demons just as much as the demons hate the humans at times. So it's like, who's really the bad guy here? That's like the question that you've got to take away from this. Like, who is the true bad guy in the Promised Neverland night? Some might say, oh, humans good guys, demons are bad guys, but no, it's not as simple as that, because if you're taking away the supplies and take away the food of an established race that's in a way surpassed you, then you're just as corrupt as they are in this society. And we get that image of that demon child just like being in terror for her life, in the same way that the humans were in terror for their lives as well, except in the reverse. And one person that I really want to highlight here is Gillian, how she's like thinking about what Emma is actually saying, because if you think back, she in a sense was like a mini Barbara when she had those machine guns, and she was just firing, having not care in the world, just saw the psycho killing intention in her eyes. And to see Emma confronting her with this idea of like, well, if you're going around and doing the same thing that the demons are doing, you're just bringing just as much hate as they have been brought to them. And it's kind of like something that they've not really considered. As you see like the looks on their faces, like the shock, but then when they're actually starting to think about it, it's like, yeah, we are kind of like bringing the hatred to the forefront that us don't want to bring to the forefront. We're kind of like becoming the demons ourselves in a sense. It's kind of symbolic in the sense that humanity is becoming more demonic than the actual demons themselves, because they're thinking like, well, the only way to solve this problem is just to eradicate the enemy. But then where does that leave us? And it's like how Shunsui said in Bleach, when both sides enter a war, both sides are in the wrong. And it's clear that with this, both sides are clearly in the wrong here. Emma continues by saying if it's possible, she doesn't want to kill all the demons, just the ones that have actually suppressed all of humanity, and in a sense all of demon society. It's not just the higher ups, in the same way that the Revolutionary Army in One Piece don't want to overthrow the world government. They just want to get rid of the Tenryubito, the Celestial Dragons, because they're the ones that are in charge and they're the ones that are causing most of the corruption here. It's the same thing here with Emma just wanting to take out the hierarchy and just and create a new world where humans and demons can't necessarily live together, but at the same time can at least come to an understanding with each other, where they don't have to continually eat each other in order to survive, and don't necessarily have to like kill each other in order to survive. And Ray brings up like another important point. It's the issue that they also have to kill Songju and Musica, because again, and you see some of the little kids like being shot, like, why do we have to kill them? Because again, they probably didn't think that Songju and Musica, they're demons as well, so we will probably have to kill them at some point, even though they are our friends. And it's kind of like the moral question of like, how far would you go to how far would you go? Would you kill your friends in order to bring balance to the greater good in the world? Emma continues on by saying, but this is all my selfishness, and I've decided that I want to do this, so I don't intend to get anyone else involved. And Norman also said that he's not going to stop or wait to carry out his plan. I don't even know if there is a way other than eradication. That's why Ray and I are going to go and see. And again, while I love Emma's determination of not to bring others into the forefront here, it's the fact that everybody is involved in this in some way. Whether Emma likes it or not, everybody is involved. And if she's got the manpower to do it, she might as well use it. And this is going back to the whole Dr. Stone idea. I mean, I know they're totally different series, but the fact that Dr. Stone can do this, but the Promised Neverland can't do this. This is like another negative. Like, I hate talking negatively about the Promised Neverland, but it is a glaring issue that even I, as big of a Promised Neverland fan as I am, can't overlook. It's the fact that there are too many characters and they're not being utilised in a meaningful way. Like, comparatively, if we take Dr. Stone, it's like we've had the ship, spoilers for everyone who doesn't read Dr. Stone, but we have the ship where they're all going to go to the other side of the world to find out the source of the petrification that turned humanity to stone. And they're bringing along a small group of people, so while they're going to have a large cast of main characters, they're main characters that can actually contribute to the plot and actually can do things in meaningful ways. Whereas here, you've got all these secondary characters, but a lot of them, they can't really contribute as much as they would like to be. I mean, and the ones that they are, that can actually contribute and can actually be there for Emma and for Ray, they're just going to leave behind. And it's like, why does it just have to be them? If you think back to the fight with Lewis, even Emma and Ray, with their intelligence and their strategies, they wouldn't have been able to defeat Lewis by themselves, just those two. And that's why you brought in Hugo, Adam, Pepe, Violet, and Nigel, those five, as well as Emma and Ray, and that evened out the fight, and everybody brought something to the table. Everybody contributed in some way to that fight in order to bring Lewis down in a sense. But here it's like, Emma, you've got Anna, you've got Gilda, you've got Don, you've got Nigel, you've got Pepe, you've got Zack, you've got Oliver, you've got Violet. Violet was enough. I don't know, did I mention Violet? I probably did. But yeah, like the point is that Emma's got all of these allies around her and she's not going to utilise them. And I get why she's not going to utilise them, because she doesn't want the burden of their responsibility. And she even says it herself, she is being it's her selfishness here that she wants to do this. And she doesn't want to bring everybody else into the forefront. But at the same time, people could stand up and say, no, Emma, we're just as committed to you as well. We're on your side, Emma, and we want to help in a certain way. And that probably would have convinced Emma to bring them along. And now, we don't know exactly who she's actually going to bring along. I mean, she says herself and Ray, but at the same time, she could add other people into the mix as well. But we'll soon see once we get the next chapter, which will be out tomorrow, I think. As Emma goes on to say, I want to make the choice I won't regret. I want to choose the future. Everybody looks around and they're all debating, and we see Limey go on and say, I see, you're right, maybe we didn't think it through. And yeah, you kind of didn't think it through, because like I said, if you want to eradicate all the demons, that includes Songju and Musica, the demons that saved your lives, the demons, if they weren't there, they would be dead. It's as simple as that. And it's like, okay, you wanna kill these demons that actually extended your lives a lot more than what would have possibly happened. And that's a great what if scenario. Well, it's not a great what if scenario. They would have all been dead. Well, maybe some would have been dead and some would have maybe had a chance to escape, but at the same time, not all of them would have been here now if it wasn't for Songju and Musica. And anyway, yeah, exactly. Ray brings it up here. Well, you guys didn't go out and see the demons in the towns, and that surprised me. That actually Sak and Pepe, Sak and some others that went out to the towns with Emma and Ray. They didn't actually see what was actually going on. I'm surprised that Sak didn't actually bring that up and didn't actually stick for them. Like, no, Emma is right here. We don't have to kill all the demons because there are demons out there that are not actually trying to hunt us. I'm surprised he didn't actually bring that up, but I digress. Ray's got a good point here that they didn't go and see the towns and the demons in the towns, so they don't know exactly how they've actually built up their society and basically made it work for them, and in a sense that we've built up our society as humanity in our world and made it work for us. We've just got animals in our regards that we eat in order to survive ourselves. Sandy interrupts them as well, as he thinks no matter how much you hate someone, there's always a side to them that you can't even imagine. As Oliver goes Sandy, and we see Sonia think back. Sonia, think back on the fight that they had with Noma and Nomas, and how they saw a different side to the demons, how they saw a very emotional side, like when Nomu saw Noma die, and how he was very upset about that. And it's really true. It's like, no matter how much you hate your enemy, if you don't know if you don't know or if you think about them, they can actually surprise you, and this obviously surprised them. But of course, there are people that actually don't agree, that actually, despite all of this, see it a different way. As we get to Gillian, and again, this is what I'm saying about why I think Dr. Stone, how it handles its characters better than The Promised Neverland. It's the fact that it's the fact that, well, I wouldn't say handling it's better, more like how the difference is that they handle it is that Promised Neverland just gives each character bit by bit, but when you put it all together, it's kind of like, oh, you see more to them than what you actually saw as just reading individual chapters. Whereas Dr. Stone, we get it more ensemble piece, like we get several chapters focusing back to back on certain characters. So like in the recent chapters, we got back to back chapters focusing on Sukaya and Francis, and they were back to back. So like we got a good ensemble of focusing on them, and now we've got a good ensemble focusing on like Krone or Senko and Ryusuke. I think that's how you pronounce his name. The arrogant but well-meaning rich kid in the series. So like so that's how they do it differently, in the sense that Promised Neverland, it will have a character and it's like, okay, we're gonna focus on this character bit by bit, whereas the Dr. Stone, they do it in quite a lengthy process. Like they'll have several chapters focusing on one character, and this is where we get Gillian's time to shine here, as we get her conviction and her understanding of this, because she's been through a lot. She saw her siblings, like her actual siblings, not just foster siblings, actually get murdered in front of her, and she has all that bit of rage in the same way that Barbara has, but hers is much more on a smaller scale compared to Barbara's, who just absolutely freaks out and is on the verge of just like one more small snap, and she just absolutely breaks completely. As we see Julian going on to say, but I hate demons. I understand what Emma and Ray are saying, and I don't want to kill your friends Songju and Musica, but I care more about everyone here than the demons. The enemy won't give us mercy. I want to protect my friends, and my friends first and foremost. To do that, even if they're kids or babies, I would, and like I said, she's been through so much and so much pain herself, that she just has this pent up rage that she wants to just thrust and anything resembling a demon. It doesn't matter, is it a baby or a kid? It's like, to her, all demons are equals rather than as separate individuals, and it's going to be difficult for her to actually see that in the future. And hopefully we'll get back to this in later on, because I still believe that there's going to be a civil war between Emma's forces and Norman's forces. It will depend on who's going to take sides. Like, the people that truly hate the demons or the people that can see it from M's viewpoint. And it'll be interesting to see if that's actually the case of how it will actually go down. And again, another character that we haven't really focused on but has had a lot of moments throughout the series is this character right. It is Gilda right here. She's like one of the major secondary characters, aside from obviously Norman, because I feel like Norman's become more of a secondary character rather than a protagonist at this point, just based on how absent he's been through the story. I mean, he's still important to the story. He's still one of the major characters, but in terms of like actual lead characters, you would think of Emma and Ray as those things, and Norman as like more of a major character at this point. But anyway, Gilda. So like I said as well, Gilda hasn't had really any big moments from since they left Goldie Pond, but she's had like smaller moments that are just as important to her character as any other, and this is one of them. As she's like going on to Emma and discussing how Emma was almost killed by those demons a few chapters ago, that the chapters that introduced Hayate, and we had that issue with Christy, and we see Anna actually flashing back to that moment herself, and Ray goes on to confirm that yeah, Emma is crazy and she couldn't see her point of view. He couldn't see her point of view at this moment at first, but after actually talking with her and actually getting all her feelings out, he kind of understood where she actually stood on the situation, that she doesn't necessarily want to kill all of the demons, because then that will make her and everyone else feel as evil as the demons, as they feel the demons are, and there's no good of solving evil by adding more evil to the conflict. And we get like a really funny image of just like the blank wide out eyes of Emma, just like what to Ray. But Don steps in and says, "But this is who Emma is," and he just gives her a grin of confidence, a grin of like, even though I don't kind of like agree with you, Emma, I can kind of see your point, and if you feel like this is the best way, go for it, go for it, you've got it. And Dawn has sort of like taken on that role of like what Norman should have been. Like I could see like if Norman hadn't been shipped out and he went actually with everyone, I could see Norman giving like this speech to Emma as opposed to like these words of courage as opposed to Dawn at this point. But since Dawn has spent more time with them than Norman has at this point, he kind of like has had a bigger eye-opener to the world itself, as opposed to Norman, who's just seen death, destruction and despair, as opposed to at least some form of happiness. I really like that about the chapter, the fact that, like I said, even though we don't necessarily focus on the secondary characters as much as we should be doing, when we do, it's really great. And if you actually put it all together, once the series is over, like if you actually put all the moments together, you might actually think like, wow, we really did find out a lot more about these characters than what the chapters do. Like the chapters, because you read it week by week, you only get it like in sections. But again, like I said, this is the difference between this series and Dr. Stone. The fact that Dr. Stone does not have like have a secondary species that is just as intelligent and strong as you, out to kill you, where and you can have more of those quiet moments, learning new things and building up society again, as opposed to the Promised Neverland, where you're thrown into like this post-apocalyptic war setting where you always have to be constantly on the run, constantly fearing for the lives of you in the back of your mind, and you can't really sit down and have like as many quiet moments or moments of happiness outside and exploring the world as you can in Dr. Stone. And I feel like this is like a major difference between how the series actually struggled, for better or for worse. I mean, I still see the problems with Dr. Stone as well, in the fact that each chapter can sometimes be a bit repetitive, but what we get in those chapters is really fascinating. And in a sense, with Promised Neverland, like it's just focusing on certain characters whilst other characters get pushed to the sideline. But when we do actually focus on the characters and what they actually have to say and what they contribute to the story, it still, to me, is really fascinating. And again, I don't like to compare Dr. Stone to the Promised Neverland, even though I've been doing that a lot in this video. I feel like they're two completely different series. They both are survival series, but I feel like one has a lot more open range based on what has been set up in that reality, because that universe is our Earth. Just what would have happened if something else, if just like a catastrophe had just happened. with the snap of the fingers, and how humanity rises back from that. Whereas Promised Neverland, it is still our world, but it's kind of like a parallel Earth. Whereas something like in Doctor Stone, I could totally see happening. In Promised Neverland, I could not see this happening, and that's why I feel like we need to separate Doctor Stone from the Promised Neverland. As Dawn says to Emma, "It's fine, go ahead," and Gilda's like, "Dawn," and everybody's like looking shocked about how he's so in agreement with what Emma is actually saying at this point. Although I don't think he's 100% necessarily in agreement with them. He goes on to say that we're talking about Emma and Ray. You must have thought about it a lot before deciding. I mean, of course, I'd rather avoid the risk of going to the Seven Walls, but I don't disagree with Emma's ideals. I feel like you have to like kind of disagree with it at some point, because it is crazy, and it can all fall apart for that. And if you lose Emma, that source of like inspiration for you, then all you're going to be focusing on is just like death, destruction, and despair at that point. But anyway, I digress. Continuing on, Dawn continues and says, most of all, the choice we won't regret, even if it is risky, is the freedom we've always chosen as escapees, right? And she's not going to listen, even if we try to stop her. And yeah, that's kind of like another thing to Emma's character. It's like, you could try and talk to her, but at the same time, once she has something fixated and she's like, no, I truly believe in this, then no amount of discussion will stop her, and she will actually go out and fulfill that desired dream and ambition at that point. And Gilda tries to protest this by saying, "There's no need for you to be in this dangerous situation. It's a really dangerous path, and it's not like you have to take it. So why does it always have to be you? And again, this is kind of like a mirror image of what Emma actually said to Norman, in the sense that Emma at this point, in Gilda's eyes, and I feel like in a lot of the other kids' eyes, I feel like because what Emma is actually saying in this chapter, they're like viewing her as like someone who's on that same level of Norman. I mean, she is on that same level of Norman, but at the same time, Norman has been sort of like viewed more as a god at this point, whereas Emma's been much more down to earth. And I feel like Gilda is actually seeing like, no, Emma is thinking like how Norman is, and it's kind of scary to her about how much danger she's actually putting herself in. And like I said, Gilda has a point here. It doesn't always have to be up to her. She could take other people, so why is it... I know why it's her, but at the same time, why is it her? It's like, you need more people there, Emma, because you're not going to be able to do this task alone. You need to take more people with you. And as Emma apologises to Gilda, she goes on and says, "Sorry, I keep choosing these paths, but this is the only choice I can accept for myself. And also, this time, it's not just that." Again, I kind of can't see where Emma is coming from here, but at the same time, a lot of the kids, they're in the same boat as you, Emma, and you kind of have to have them by your side in order so that you don't make a very irrational decision. Like, these kids have like kept you down to earth all this time, and if you need to make this task succeed, you need them by your side. I mean, not everyone. Like again, like Gilda, Dawn, Zach, Nigel, Oliver, like. And Ray, those and Anna to a certain extent at this point, because we've had some focus on Anna, but at the same time, have them there with you. Go to the Seven Walls, but have them there with you. Don't put all this burden on yourself, because you're starting to sound a lot like Norman. And again, like I said, this could lead to the civil war that think is actually being built up here. That Emma is not going to listen to Norman, and her emotions are going to get the better of her, and it's going to lead to her having a clash with Norman at some point. But of course, Emma has something else up her sleeve, and she mentions that she doesn't want Norman to kill himself anymore, obviously referring back to when Norman actually sacrificed himself, just giving them the opportunity to escape from Gracefield House. And they're actually confused, like her, Norman, and Ray actually confirms this, that he's trying to do the same thing again. And Emma goes on to say, it's not like he's throwing his life away or ending it. Yes, he is, Emma. Yes, he is. And I feel like if Norman actually does die, which I feel like is actually going to happen, like Norman is actually going to die, Emma at that point is just going to have all of her emotions just like flood over her, and it's going to be very hard for her to actually listen to reason at that point. But anyway, continuing on, she goes on to say, but he's killing his heart for us again, bearing everything to finish this. And Ray goes on to say, both Emma and I won't go along with that. His shipment, our escape, he probably thinks that was the only correct answer, the only way to succeed, but it wasn't a success at all. And Emma does have a point, because she wanted to escape with everyone, and the fact that Norman actually went and sacrificed himself, that just put a lot of burden on Emma's heart, and that just crushed her soul. And I feel like if Ray wasn't there to actually comfort her, if Ray and Don and Gilda weren't actually there to comfort her, I feel like she would have taken Isabella's choice at that point and actually become a mama, and actually had the same vicious cycle happen again, and she would have actually just given up at that point if Ray wasn't actually there to like say like, no, we or Ray, Don and Gilda, if they actually hadn't have gotten all those people on her side, then I feel like she would have actually given up at that point. Emma continues on and says, everyone worked so hard, and it's not done yet, but at that point when we let Norman go, the escape wasn't a true success. I don't want to feel the pain again. I don't want to go through that again. That this time for sure I want to prove to Norman that we don't know until we try, and this again is my selfishness, but for that reason too we want to go to the Seven Walls. Oh no, it's not Ray, it's not Emma that says that, it's Ray that actually says that. So again, showing how in sync Emma and Ray are compared to where they were back in Gracefield House. But again, like I said, Emma, you've said this before, Norman is not going to wait at this point, and I feel like he's just going to be so stuck in that mindset that by the time you've actually succeeded at that, it's going to be all for naught. Norman's going to have been eradicating demons left, right and centre, and again it'll probably lead to a civil war, which will kind of leave the series on a depressing note then, that because of what the demons had actually built up in society and what they actually believed in, and they thought that they could change the world, because they'd all gotten separated, it kind of led to even more death and destruction, because they couldn't actually come to an agreement on both ends of the spectrum, and it kind of led to a lot of people dying for nothing essentially. And I feel like that would be like the most tragic but the most fitting way for the series to actually end, with a civil war between humanity, where that had the backbone of the demon society, and how two people viewed it as a different way, but they couldn't see eye to eye despite being the closest as friends could be. Emma continues and says, we'll come back as soon as possible before Norman orders the killing of the demon royal family and the aristocrats. He's probably already doing that right now, Emma. While you're talking, he's probably already doing that. As Ray goes on to say, but just in case the worst happens, choose the path that you won't regret, and please take care of Norman, which is what Emma says. But again, like I said, I don't feel like even they will have the wisdom and will to actually convince Norman, because if you can't do that, Emma, and if Ray can't do that, then Norman's not going to listen to anyone at that point, and it's just going to be, it's like, he needs to do this, as he said in the last chapter, that he doesn't mind being an angel and a devil all at the same time, and he doesn't care what they think of him. It's his decision at this point. It's his society he's built up, and he's got to be the god that everybody perceives him to be. As everybody is like getting prepared for Ray and Emma to depart, Gilda says, I don't want to hear of the worst happening. You have to come back alive, even if it's a lie. Promise me you will. And Emma goes, I won't lie, but I will promise I'll come back safely no matter what. I'll come back. Got it. As everybody's like, got it. Leave this place to us. Go and do what you need to do. And everybody just gives like their approval, and Emma and Ray are like, okay in this regard. But again, like I said, Emma, you've got allies there that can actually go with you. So why don't you just have like about 5 people just go with you, and then we can focus on them and have sort of like, again, an A story and a B story. A story focusing on the people at Norman's base, or maybe that's probably what they'll do. They'll probably have a few chapters with Emma and Ray, and then a few other chapters back at the shelter with everybody else focusing on rebuilding their society and finding out what everyone's strategies is. Although since this is the final arc, I don't feel like they are actually going to do that, and that makes me worried as well that the series is actually going to end without so many of their characters getting the spotlight that they truly deserve. We cut back to Norman's office, where we've seen when we see Vincent asking Norman, when are Emma and Ray leaving, and Norman says, they said if the moon comes out as early as tonight, and sure enough, the moon is out as early as tonight, which again means that Norman is probably going to execute his plan at the same time they're going to execute their plan, and it's a sense of a race against time. And I know I said that Norman is probably doing his plan right now, but again, it's probably a plan that's just like, okay, we're gonna do my plan. My plan's been done, just like that, or something like that. So I'm getting like a very eerie vibes from Norman, and whether this is actually again going to lead to the civil war that I've been alluded to, we'll just have to wait. But that's like a tragic but meaningful ending of the series, like a series that had so much hope and so much darkness. Actually ended with more hope, but at the same time with more darkness. I feel like that would be the most appropriate way to finish the story. But again, like I said, I'm really worried about the series as well, because it seems that we're not going to get more focus on the other characters, and I really like those other characters. I really do. I like Dawn, I like Gilda, I like Gillian, I like Zack, I like Pepe, I like Nigel, I like them all. I like Violet and Paula as well, and the fact that we're not getting as much focus on them as we have done in like the Goldie Pond arc, that just kind of makes me depressing, because I really like those characters, and the fact that Emma is not utilising them as constructively as she can, even though I understand her philosophy around it. The fact that they're just as willing to put themselves in danger as Emma is at some points. I mean, I know Dawn and Gilda aren't at points, but you have Violet, you have Gillian, you could take them with you and get more character development out of them. And like I said, I feel like we're going to be ending the series without actually focusing on the secondary characters, which again, Control Chaos, they do actually have a good point. But the reason why I still love talking about the series, it's just talking about like the structure of the story, like just how these characters are going to get out of the situation. But again, I want more from it. I want more from the secondary characters. So again, like I said, I love Dr. Stone and The Promised Neverland, but I feel like at this point, Dr. Stone is clinching it, because but in terms of like the story and the world and just how fascinating I am and how attached I am to these characters and have been since day one, I'd still like it that little bit extra. And Emma is still my favourite protagonist, even though she does make some very irrational decisions based on her emotions, and that's one thing I feel like she has to overcome and learn to appreciate the value of having allies there that can look after her. Case in point, like if Hattori wasn't there, or if Sassy wasn't there and Hattori wasn't there, Emma would have been dead in that rescue for Christy as well. So I feel like Emma really needs those allies to actually go with her, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get that in the next chapter. But anyway, continuing on, we see them outside. As they see everybody up. They haven't tried this again since that one time, right? And we see we see Emma holding the flower and seeing like her magnifying glass, and actually I feel like she's actually the coordinates to actually where the seven walls is as well. No. They haven't tried this again since that one time, right? That's probably them trying, that Violet saying, like, they haven't tried to go to the second wall, the seven walls, since that one time. And Emma announces that they're all going off to see the Demon King at the seven walls, with Emma drawing a knife and just feeling it, and the Demon King with the dragon focusing as a focusing end to this chapter, and that's where the chapter ends. So I'm in two minds about this chapter. One mind, I do appreciate what it's actually done to actually get Emma's resolve out to everyone and feel like, no, I need to say this. But at the same time, I don't agree with the choice of it just to be Emma and Ray. I feel like we need more characters to go with them, because they can't do this mission by themselves. They haven't been able to do these missions by themselves. They're just incapable of doing that. No, I don't care how smart and intelligent they are and how much more physically they are than some characters. They need other allies to be there. And yeah, that's really all I can say. And like I said, Dr. Stone is handling this a lot better, because they're actually using the characters that I've actually had to focus on. I've actually had the most screen time, whilst also doing it in a way where you can actually cut back to the mainland and actually see what they're actually doing, and get focus on those characters and actually build up other characters that have been sort of like in the background, and see what they can do. Whereas here, I feel like if they are not going to bring up characters, we have to at least cut back to the other characters. We can't have it just be Emma and Ray on their own without actually coming back to the other characters and seeing what they're doing. So that's all I wanted to say, guys. But anyway, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.